The Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Welcome back, folks, to the second half of the show of Meet Your Candidate. Today we have TJ McGowan in this studio, and TJ is running for Martin County Commission District 2 against incumbent Stacey Hetherington. TJ, you came into the race right at the last minute. Everybody's been, who's TJ? So I really appreciate you coming into the studio so we can get to know you a little bit better and why you're running for this race. Folks, I can't take calls over the phone for the Meet Your Candidate series, but I will be watching my Facebook page, and I'm just loading that up now because I had to switch over from the last show real quick. But ask your questions to TJ through the Facebook, and I'll be happy to pass those on. Also, I want to thank my sponsors, Indiantown Marina. Folks, get your hurricane storage today. Have your reservation in place. Once a storm is named, it's just not going to happen in this town to find a place. And Indiantown Marina is one of South Florida's best boat storage facilities, and they're certainly probably the most well-protected hurricane hole in the area. So give them a call, 772-631-3272, 631-3272, and also visit the best-kept secret in Martin County. That's the Fish House Art Center. You can look them up online at the Fish House Art Center. All kinds of things to do out there. There's an artist, Airbnb, craft beers, wine, 24 flavors of ice cream. Just a really fun place to go. So in the meantime, while I'm queuing up my Facebook so I can get questions, we're going to hear a little bit about TJ. TJ's grandparents emigrated from Ireland to Jupiter Island in the 1950s and lived there as caretakers. His father and he were born in Martin County, and his parents raised him here until moving to a farm in Tennessee. I went on to graduate high school near the top of his class as captain of the soccer team. As a result, TJ received an appointment to the United States Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut. After an honorable discharge, he moved closer to be with his family in Tennessee. Eventually went on to receive a BA in philosophy and a Master of Divinity in Theology, which led him to serve the Catholic Church in Nashville as a priest. He left the ministry when he decided that he wanted a family and settled in his childhood home right here in Martin County. Meanwhile, he enrolled in Palm Beach State College and earned an associate's degree in nursing and then became a licensed registered nurse. He's found his true professional calling as an ICU nurse. My passions and joy in life are being a father, education, and working in the medical field. Nurses are angels. I've done a lot of shows, and there's a lot of issues that go on, so that's a very, very honorable profession. So TJ, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run for Martin County Commission, District 2.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me on here. I know a lot of people have questions. Who is this TJ guy?
Right.
Threw my name in the hat at the last minute. So I really appreciate the short little bio there, kind of give you the broad strokes of my life. I guess I would say, if I were to tell you a little bit about me, I would say I have always tried and wanted to do something with my life, whether it was the Coast Guard, the priesthood, or as a nurse now, that helps save lives. And I really do believe that we need commissioners who are noble, who are in it for the right reasons. I've never done anything in my life for any kind of financial gain, and in fact, the exact opposite at times, leading a life of simplicity for 10 years as a priest. So I don't come to this with any really desire for office, actually, and I think that is in my favor. I would look very suspiciously at people who seek office or kind of line their life up and plan it out to gain office, because I am just skeptical to begin with. That's just my nature of what are the motivations for people who get in office. So my motivation for running for Martin County Commission was really, just becoming aware of some facts about my opponent that bothered me, and also looking at what was going on in our county. Everyone I talked to, I know this is a theme that you have covered with every candidate that's been on here, I believe, just the traffic situation,
right,
the growth, the fact that we can't support the kind of development that has been going on here. So that is the cornerstone of why I am running.
The infrastructure is really a huge issue here. There's no question about it. I was telling everybody when I came into the studio, I had to sit through 2 lights at every light stop today, which is really unusual in the middle of summer for our area. So we definitely want to talk about the issues. I appreciate that you want to do that. One thing, we've watched some of your interviews. You posted online through the Martin County RAC. You had posted that, and a TC Palm interview. Both of those are online. And just learned a lot about you. And I think one of the things was COVID as well. You had some strong convictions there about how the mask mandate was handled.
Sure. Yeah, and this is one of the things I always try to go back to first principles. I believe when we're talking about public officials, you need to know where they stand and why they stand where they stand. The founding of our country was built on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's in our Declaration of Independence. It's the reason why we are the people that we are today. And so whether it's COVID or any issue nationally, locally, we have to always keep those principles in mind. And I think that the response, certainly by the federal government, by the state government, and even more so by the county government, was completely inappropriate for COVID. I would make an analogy. It's if we look at the history of our country, when there are crises or times when people go into this fear mode, I think of 9/11. Everyone remembers where they were on 9/11. It rocked us to our core as a nation, as a people.
Sure did.
And what happened in the immediate aftermath of that is that we passed the Patriot Act, which was something that was done under fear, and it was almost unanimously passed. And it took us a while to process what happened in that and say, a lot of our basic liberties were handed over.
That's right.
And so when you're operating out of a place of fear, that is a terrible way to do government. And that is exactly what happened during COVID. This fear, it was blasted over the media, came into our homes, locked us down into our homes. Our kids were pulled out of school. It affected every part of our life. I mean, I don't have to go into that with people. We all understand what that was. And we're just now, many people are just now getting it. I think that what happened there was completely inappropriate. I saw this from the beginning.
So if you were sitting on the commission, you would not have voted for a mask mandate?
No, absolutely not. No lockdowns, no mandates. I mean, they were voting for fines. They were telling us how many people could ride in a golf cart.
Yeah, yes. I do remember in the beaches
Lest
and all kinds of things.
people forget a golf cart. I mean, that's the level of absurdity that we were involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. TJ, let me ask you this. Why this district too, as opposed to, there's 2 districts that are up. You'll have to move into whatever district you're elected into. Mm-hmm. Why Stacey Hetherington versus the Sarah Hurd seat? What was it about this seat that you wanted to run for?
Yes. So you've listened to my interviews. Mm-hmm. You've heard my responses to this, and maybe your listeners don't know that. But I will go through it very briefly, that my opponent has done things that I think are, I'll be quite honest, I think they're unethical. I think they're very unethical. And she did them 6 months after she got into office. When she raised her funds in 2018, when she won, she had over $100,000 raised, and out of her campaign funds, there's 2 aspects to this. Out of her campaign funds, $63,000, over 50% of her funds raised, went to a guy who is a political operative, has been for decades out of Tallahassee. He has spent his whole life trying to gain influence and power in local politics around the state. Okay, so she paid for services through his companies. This is all on my website. You can check it all out, and it's all publicly available documents. That was part number 1. In and of itself, that wouldn't have been problematic. The problem came 6 months after she was elected, when this same guy, Roger Pennington, gave her a $150,000 loan so that she could purchase a condo within the district, District 2. It's right over here in downtown somewhere, okay? That means that our sitting county commissioner is in personal debt to the tune of $150,000 to a political operative who has been trying to seek influence in local elections and among local officers for decades. Tell me that that doesn't look and sound terrible and stink. I think it stinks.
Well, and I appreciate you putting that out there. And I've looked into this because it was sent to me as well. And he has mailers and he has flyers, and that's what she hired him for. And she does have a loan for that mortgage, which you pointed out as well. My question is, what's the unethical part? What benefit is he getting? It sounds like, or is she giving him? It sounds like he's getting money from her, but there's no vote. He doesn't live here, so there's no vote or anything that's benefited him. So where's the line here that you're looking at as being unethical? To me, she got a loan. It's not unusual for a hard money loan, and she hired him for political services.
So here's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to answer your question in a different way, which I think it's a smoking gun. I don't think we may never know the answers to what you're asking. I would love to know the answers to those questions too.
Okay.
But what I will say is that her judgment in receiving this loan from this person is not the kind of judgment for people we need in local public office. I mean, it says in the ethical rules for the state of Florida that if a person has a reasonable expectation that receiving a loan from someone could cause undue influence, that's unethical. Okay, it's clearly spelled out there, and she should have known that this could be an avenue for undue influence. I don't know the answer.
She'll be on the show next week, and I will ask her.
Her judgment is what I would call into question.
Okay. TJ, let's talk about the issues here in the county.
Sure.
This is really the important stuff.
Yes,
and
that's what I want to talk about.
Okay,
really.
let's go do it. We started out with the infrastructure. What are some solutions as a county commissioner that will help lighten the load with all the traffic that's in the area and the developments that are going on? What are your positions? I've got so many questions about that. The comp plan is one that has recently come up a lot. Do we make changes to the comp plan?
Let's start there. Let's start with the comp plan, because this is an issue for the voters who are cued in, and I think your listeners are probably more cued in than the average person, but let's go through it in review. Our rural land use that's designated in our comp plan is 20 acres per unit on our rural lands. And what these developers down in Hobe Sound, big time money developers that want to come in and they want to chip away at that. They want to go down to 5 acres per unit on 1,000. If they can cobble together 1,000 acres, these rules will apply. And then they're going to just chip away at it, okay? And then our rural lands are going to be converted into something different. They call it rural lifestyle. It's kind of a joke. They're not going to create a rural lifestyle down there. They're going to create a little paradise for the Mondo rich people who want to come in here, the Tom Bradys or whoever they are that think that this, that's not what we need. That will be the justification for further chipping away. The Guardians of Martin County, if you're familiar with that group.
I am, very much.
Private organization down there, very interested in this topic. Go on their website. You can take a picture of Indiantown Road, which is the next exit down on I-95, and then a picture of Bridge Road. Okay. That's what we want. We want Bridge Road to look like it looks. We don't want it to look like Indiantown Road. We don't want to look like Palm Beach County or St. Lucie County for that matter. And this is going to be the first step, and it will only be the first step, by the way. And anyone who thinks that this will just be it and that there won't be further chipping away in the future is being extremely naive.
So you're very much somebody that stands by the current comp plan.
We need people who have an iron will regarding this rural land use. There can be no equivocation. We need to review what percentage of this goes and what percentage of that goes. No, we need county commissioners that will just flat out say no to that. That's point. I think that is the bulwark that we have in the comp plan. That and the 4-story limit. Those things should not ever be touched.
What about septic to sewer conversions? As a county commissioner, where do you stand on that?
We need to encourage that as much as possible. The great, wonderful news that we've received here on the Treasure Coast, of course, Brian Mast worked very hard, authored this bill, the Northern Estuaries Restoration Plan, which was really a tie-on to the CERP, federal bills that we're all familiar with that were designed to solve our water problems and all the blue-green algae and all those issues. So we just, in this recently passed bill, we have $100 million that's going to be allocated to St. Lucie, Martin, and Palm Beach counties for us to use, and it specifically says in there that those monies are to be prioritized for septic to sewer conversions. So that's really exciting news, because the issue, anybody who's a homeowner, anybody who's been on septic, who's had to go through this knows it's a dollar's equation. That's all it is. How much is it going to cost me to convert over? Is it worth it? Can I afford that right now? And the people who don't want to pay that, who are just sitting on septic, they need these funds. We're thankful for the federal government for passing this, because this is a huge part of cleaning our water up around
Sure
here.
is. It sure is.
So that's, I think, really exciting news.
And speaking of the water, right now Congressman Mast has a Coast Guard comment period about the bridge here over the St. Lucie River. As a county commissioner, where do you weigh in on that issue?
Well, we all feel the way. All the boaters, you talk to any boaters. We have this huge boating, fishing community here in Stewart. It's one of the real central parts of like who we are here. The Bright Line situation with the trains, it's already ruining parts of our lifestyle here, and that's a huge part of it. It's like they're going to be running trains over that track all the time. It's hardly ever going to be open. The boaters are getting stuck out there. You've got other entities, Coast Guard, all these things that need to egress, ingress, and all that, and so it's causing massive issues. I think ideally, if they could pony up, if the railroad could pony up and put a bigger bridge, but
that is ideal.
Just to solve that, just like we had to do with our toll bridges around here back in the day, going out to the island. But it's a massive expenditure. They're not going to do it unless somebody forces them to do it.
And what if the train comes and says, okay, you guys, if you'll pony up, half the bridge cost or 10%, or give us land for a station and then we'll put a bridge up. As county commissioner, how do you feel about helping that private company out with taxpayer-owned money or land?
I think the problem is the railroad hold all the cards at the end of the day. We did settle this settlement agreement.
Yes.
I know Indian County fought it tooth and nail.
Yes.
They kept fighting longer and longer with these lawsuits that were costing $1 million at a time, ponying up $1 million at a time. And we didn't really, the argument could be made, we really didn't get a whole lot out of those monies. But we got the settlement agreement that we did, which says that, it's going to go forward, basically.
Right.
Which
right.
we knew that was going to happen anyway. So as far as your question of taxpayer money going to help this, that's something that will have to go before the voters, and they will have to, the taxpayers will have to say, are the benefits worth the cost?
Okay.
So that's an issue that I think the voters really are going to have to say, because first of all, if we negotiate, what is our, how much are we willing to put aside as a county? How much are these people, as taxpayers, willing to contribute to that and for the outcome that we're looking for?
So right now we're in a really interesting time with our real estate values. They've popped up. We've got a lot more property value taxes that are coming into the county. Where do you see that money being spent?
It should be spent according to how the comp plan says it should be spent. And so that spells out very clearly there's a hierarchy of how we're supposed to spend our funds. And it starts with safety and infrastructure. And so when we're looking at our county budget, anything that is making us less safe here, and by the way, that includes the water issue, in my opinion. Okay?
You're
the
at
water
100%
issues,
right.
All right? The roads going around here, all the topics we're talking about, boom, those are priority number one. Everything else flows after that. Okay, so when we're looking to cut the budget, we have to cut things lower down on the list. All right? So if it's related to safety and infrastructure, we can sometimes even put more money towards those things and may need to. And it's going to require cuts elsewhere. But I'm glad you brought up the property values, because we are, we're going to be bringing in record with the assessments, more taxes coming in. The property values are through the roof. Now, I know those tax assessed values, I don't know how, it's like a super, people don't even understand how they come up with those numbers, but they have to go up.
Right.
We know they're going to go up. And we're going to be having more coming into our county coffers. So, I don't think now is not the time to start thinking about raising taxes on a county level, because the taxes are being raised through that process already.
So there's a lot of issues here in the county that a couple of things that are coming to mind. I want to ask how you would have voted on a previous development, and that was what was called Pineland Prairie. It's now, I think it's Newfoundland. I think it's called Newfoundland. Are you familiar with the Pineland Prairie development?
A little bit, yeah.
That was one that breached the comp plan, but it had tremendous community support. Just curious, because I know you're down the line on the comp plan. We don't breach it. Where would have you stood on that development?
So one of the things that I don't think is appropriate is when local government, or any government really, level of government, starts saying, well, we're going to pick winners and losers here. So we have this particular developers that came in, that built this. It seems like maybe they got a special deal cut with the county, okay, to come in and do that. We're going to do it on an ad hoc basis for each developer that comes through. We're going to deny some, so I think whatever we do should be consistent. I understand that there was support for that locally, and we as commissioners, we have to listen to the people and how they feel about things. The whole Costco thing, there was a big backlash about that. The public comments period, people were coming in there and what they did in replacement of it with Tractor Supply and all those things, nobody said anything.
Right. I know.
So that, those kind of things have to be taken into account. How do the people feel about this? Because the role of the county commissioner at the end of the day is to do what's best for the people.
Represent them. That's absolutely right. We are speaking with TJ McGowan. He's running for Martin County Commission District 2. TJ McGowan. TJ, you have a website where folks can go to and learn a little bit more about yourself. And is it tjmcgowan.com?
tj-mcgowan.com.
There we
If you're
go.
from an older generation, tj-mcgowan.com. I'm told younger folks may not know what a hyphen is. And I was listening to your little interview on the school board, and I was fascinated by some of those conversations as well, I must tell you.
Yes.
Speaking of what younger people may or may not know.
There you go. And folks, speaking of the school board in Martin County, August 23 is our primary. That is when our Martin County races will be decided. It will not go to the general in November. So if you like TJ or any of the candidates, you need to vote on August 23. I know the mail-out ballots have already gone out. There will be early voting. So TJ, with that in mind, are there some meet and greets and things? I think you have some things coming up here where people come out and talk with you and ask you some questions.
Absolutely.
You're pretty straightforward.
Well, I try to be. I want people to know where I stand on things. And if you want to know more about where I stand on other issues or these issues, tomorrow, actually, at Cafe Martier, right here in downtown, starting at 6 p.m., I will be having a meet and greet. Come on out, enjoy the wonderful atmosphere there. We'll have a good time. We'll chat about what's important to you and where I stand on things locally.
TJ, should government own businesses?
No, government should not. I'm so glad you asked that, Casey, because government should be limited. I mean, I'm an old school Republican on this. We're looking at limited government. And when the government starts to get into the business of doing business, first of all, they do it poorly. And that's probably point number one. They do it inefficiently and at a huge cost to taxpayers. Sailfish Splash, I have a 3-year-old daughter. I've been out there. I've enjoyed it. It's run by the county. It loses massive amounts of money every year, and we need to get out of the business of being in businesses that we can't run well to begin with. That's not fair to the taxpayers to do that.
What about government-owned land that they lease out to private business?
So government-owned land, the thing about government-owned land is we should make sure that if we're going to purchase land, we do it, okay, at a time when those costs are reasonable, not now when they're through the roof. So this comes back to fiscal responsibility. If the county's going to be purchasing lands, and we have every right to do that for whatever ends we have, whether it's conservation or just limiting growth, in general, then those decisions should be made when the price is right.
Makes
and that's
sense.
just being fiscally responsible to our taxpayers.
On your website, one of the issues you talk about is economic development, very important here in Martin County. What are your stands there to create paying jobs and increase our tax base here within the county?
It goes back. This is something that gets debated on the national level everywhere. It's the same thing. Our job is to keep taxes as low as possible here in Martin County, to make it an attractive place for businesses to come. By the way, I would really love to see locals spearheading business here, okay? I don't like when outside corporations want to come in and just make money off the people of Martin County. I want to keep it as local as much as possible. And we do that by, again, not playing favorites. Okay, not carving out special things, but for every business owner, if you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're wanting to start that, we want to make it as attractive as possible for you. And we want you to be treated fairly, just like everybody else who runs a business here.
It sounds pretty cut and dry. There's rules to follow, and regardless of who you are, follow those rules. So, again, this is TJ McGowan, pretty straightforward guy here running for Martin County Commission District 2. We've talked a lot about, the clean water taxes. First responders, you have that as one of your issues on your website.
First responders. So here's one of the things, and honestly, I'm so glad. Every topic you bring up, I'm like, I'm so glad you're asking that topic. First responders. Listen, I'm a nurse. I want to talk about our fire rescue for a moment, because I think when you talk about our county commission, This is a topic that a lot of county commissioners don't want to talk about. And why don't they want to talk about it? Well, because our county commission pays the union the negotiated contracts, and unfortunately, we lose that negotiation every time because none of our county commissioners are willing to stand up and say no. Maybe Sarah Hurd said she says no more than most, I think, but they are terrified of the fire department because they wield so much political power here. They will get out and mobilize. My opponent's down there knocking doors with firefighters probably right now. She's been posting pictures of it. They're in her back pocket, or she's in their back pocket, and it's like she gives them everything they ask for. I've talked to so many firefighters, ex-firefighters, current firefighters, who say it's out of control. We have to do what's best, not for this one group, for our whole county of taxpayers to be beholden to this one group and just give them everything they want. We want our first responders to be very well equipped, and I have no problem with that. But at the same time, we have a responsibility, a primary and an overarching responsibility to the taxpayers. We need to hire a negotiator that puts a buffer between the county commissioners and the fire department, because what's currently happened is they are daring any county commissioner to not vote for the raises they're asking for. They have taken over local politics, and people who know about things know this. I'm not trying to curry favor with the fire department. I would love any support from all of them. I'm a nurse. I work to save lives. I think it's one of the most noble things you can do. And I would remind all of our first responders that keep that nobility first, not the money, the nobility of the job, the dignity of what you do. That is what's most important. But we have to have a fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers at the end of the day.
Again, we're speaking with TJ McGowan. You can visit his website, tj-McGowan.com. That's McGowan.com to find out more information. Again, you're out on the street. You have a Facebook page. You have meet and greets coming up. A great place to ask TJ any of your questions. You seem to be able to answer any of them that we put in front of you.
I love talking with people. The only limitation to this venue here is that I can't meet the people. Door knocking, getting out there, meet and greets. I want to meet as many of you as possible.
As you're speaking with people, what do you see are their biggest concerns?
Everything we've been talking about, primarily development. It's the traffic. It's all those issues. That is number one on everyone's list. I mean, yes, the housing prices, people are just trying to get by sometimes, and there's other things, but for us here locally, as far as the county commission and what they can do and what they can influence, it's putting the brakes on the developments. And
with that, I'm a Republican conservative, and you are as well, there's property rights. So if a property is already zoned for a certain development, as a county commissioner, it's going to bring in a lot more houses, let's say. Where do you stand on that if somebody's coming in using the property as intended, even though it's going to bring a lot more population to the community?
Well, I mean, whatever is legal has to be done. I mean, if it's legal and it can't be, if we're trying to do things that can't be defended legally as a county commission, that's untenable. Okay, so of course, we have to respect whatever legal rights are there. That's point number one. But I would also say there is leeway in the comp plan that says county commissioners really should always take the interests of the people into mind. So.
Thank you, TJ McGowan. We are out of time. Next week, we will have his opponent on, Stacey Hetherington and Angelina Perez from Indiantown City Council. Hope you can tune in then. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.